Troy Galloway is a construction manager and consultant, commercial and residential builder, and a certified inspector for all commercial and residential buildings. And now, here is About the House with Troy Galloway.
Hello, folks. Welcome to a brand new company or advocacy that we're putting together. This is actually, we're working with About the House and Galloway Building Services to develop this. And what this is a Construction Consumer Advocacy Institute. And we're really excited about this. And we're going to have some different specials and stuff to help show you. But just jump here a little bit. This kind of tells a little bit about our mission statement, our website, so you can learn more about who we are. We're not going to spend a lot on that today as we go along, because we're going to be doing this from now on. And every month we're going to be putting out, we're going to put out one big long show and then try to break them down into smaller segments too, so now you don't always have time to listen to a whole show, but you can always have time to listen to a little. And what's really great about this is we are actually, I gotta just say it, for the first time in my life, all the years, I tell everybody this, all the years that I've ever been in construction, which is my whole entire adulthood, I have always, tried to help people, but I also needed to be helped too. And by getting the work and getting the jobs. Well, for the first time ever, I'm able to put everything together, and I'm actually being able to give back. And I'm old enough that that I can do this, and I got the experience to do this. And because we do construction expert witnessing, Galloway Building Services does, I have discovered a great need for this kind of information. It's like consumer reports, except it's for construction only. And we have construction advocacies, but they're for the contractors. We have nothing for that I found that's actually for the people, the consumers. So that's what this is all about, and that's what this show is going to be designed for. And today we are going to start with a wonderful show. But let me share with this a little bit here, one more, and right here, if we're gonna, in order to today, we'll launch this whole show and everything. Today is my birthday, so today we are going to give you folks a special that we're not going to probably offer ever again. So if you want to take advantage of it, just follow this, hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you request after you hit like and subscribe that you would like to, in the comment section, that you would like to get the top 10 questions to ask your contractor before hiring, we send it to you absolutely free. Or, this is even what we're adding to it for the birthday special. Just finished a wonderful book on the Essential Contractor Hiring Guide. And we're also offering a discount to that. So if you request that and tell us that you saw this on here, which you naturally would because it'd be on YouTube, and you just hit the reply, hit like and subscribe, and follow and request that. We will get you that also, tell you more about it. And so you can get it. You're going to get it cheaper through us than you will through Amazon or through Barnes & Noble, which we're going to be everywhere there too. But anyway, enough with that. Let's get on with the show, because this is a great show. And this is an important show that I think that is time sensitive, because we are going into that time of the year that we will be doing our smoke alarms, fire alarms, these kind of things, safety for the wintertime. So let's get at it. All right. So home alarms. This is what we're working on here, is the home alarms, different types of alarm systems throughout the house. And like I said, we're going to be breaking it down into different segments also, besides the entire show. And but this is where we're at. And let me start off with fire alarms. So as you see, fire alarms we got smoke alarms, fire alarms, different types like that. So we're going to be talking about this because a few years ago, if you go back and listen to one of our About the House shows, we did a small segment on this, on alarm systems, but now this is going to be a little bit more detailed than what we had then. And technology, actual technology is always there. I just finally learned how to catch up to kind of learn how to do a little bit of this. And but anyway, so we're going to jump right into fire alarms. We don't want this. How many times do we see a house like this burning in the wintertime? And all because of something simple as this. So we want to understand the different types of fire alarms and smoke alarms that are out there. So we're going to, with winter season happening and we got all these different threats and such, we want to make sure that we understand. Now, we all know that the best way of starting this is we change our batteries out of and that's always a great way, and test it, and then you get that. But so you don't need this radio show for that. But you want to know about what type of alarms that you have. But there are several different alarms out there that are detecting for fire, for smoke, and we want to talk about that. Also want to talk about some of the alarms that are actually being called back and with the radioactive material. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Radioactive material in our fire alarms. Who would have ever guessed? So we want to jump right in here. We'll start talking about the atomization smoke alarm, the pros and the cons. And with that, because this is a great system, but there are some things happening in this industry that I think we need to be paying attention. Now, this here with the atomization, easy for me to say, smoke alarm, they are the ones that have a radioactive material, Americum dash 241. And what that does is when the smoke enters the chamber of our smoke alarm, it disrupts the electrical current and triggers the alarm that you're actually starting to have a fire, which is great. Because like for garages or something like this, but that's for fire. And it's usually caused by cooking oil or, people are cooking and they have a flash fire in their kitchen or something, or paper products catching a fire. But the benefits of this is that these alarms, the smoke alarms, they cost very little. And that is why guys, you're going to get in big trouble if you say something. But in the kitchens, when somebody's cooking and the fire alarm goes off and it's a big joke, that somebody's cooking again. I used to tease my wife all the time about that. Reason I say be careful about doing that, because now that she got me doing the cooking, and she gives me the same stuff. But that's what happens. They're very sensitive to fast flaming fires. So you want to make sure you got the right detector in the right spot. How will you know if you have one of these type of alarms and some of the drawbacks? So these are some of the emblems that you're going to see right here on these different types of alarm systems. So you can kind of know, do you have radiation and radioactive material in it or not? Now, as you can see, some of these they're being recalled back, but because they are a problem. So they pick up, this makes them less effective at detecting fires because, for cigarettes or for electrical wiring, most of your itemization smoke alarms have a higher likelihood of false alarms. Now, that's a false alarm if it goes off into the kitchen, and that's why you don't want it. But it's caused from steam from cooking or dust or even insects. Insects. Now, I never knew that until I did the research that insects getting inside the chamber could also give it false alarms. That is a problem. Now, here, look here. This is what you're looking for. See this emblem right here? This emblem right here is the emblem that we have that tells us exactly what kind of radioactive material it is. So look on your alarms and see. And here's some ID numbers and things that you could be looking at to help kind of figure out which ones is what you have. But now, this is the one that I did not know about. And these smoke alarms, they're actually being recalled. So it is very important that you take a look, and this is kind of how to look for it. And you can pull it all up and learn more about that yourself. But I think that that's very important that we know. Now, radiation, I want to talk about the radiation a little bit, about that material inside of that, because, we live in a world, there's a lot of radiation, and we're going to talk about that on other alarms in it too, further along. But, radiation's not always a bad thing, but if it does break or if there's any of this kind of material get down, it is hazardous waste, and you don't want your children and you don't want your dogs or your cats or anybody, getting into it. So that's really more of why I'm interested in putting forth and wanting you to think about the radiation, radioactive material inside of it. So with that, we move on to the next one. So that's your ionization system. We're going to move on here too. And I got a note right here that they're being phased out, which I already talked about there. And, there's so many problems with them. with moving them and transporting them and yada yada. So, but how do you do it? Well, if you have that, you got the radiation emblem and that always on it. Make sure you pull it up because they are the cheaper ones. You know, heck, I didn't know that. I put these things up countless times. I never knew the difference. Let's talk about the photoelectric smoke alarm system. And they're a lot, I think they're a lot better at detecting slow burning fires that may smolder for hours before they actually have the fire, before it pops up and it bursts into flames. And these alarms, actually, they use light to detect the smoke. Unlike the ionization detectors, they're less prone to, these are less prone for false alarms. And they work that way because of lights aimed at the sensor. If smoke enters the detector, then it scatters the light and the sensor activates the trigger alarm. Yeah, and that's kind of important to have, especially in areas, like in a garage where you might have I hate to say it, but maybe you might have some oily rags or something there that may be caught, it's laying there smoldering or something, or maybe electrical aluminum wiring, where maybe it's getting hot and starts smoking before it starts to burn. So yes, absolutely, you want to make sure. Oh, hey, let's go into understanding the pros and the cons of these photoelectric smoke alarms. So one of the smokers, I love it because they are very much a safety feature for the house and early systems for fire, allowing people to evacuate before it's too late. I had one years ago, and this actually believe it or not, it even picked up the light and the fire. I had a kerosene heater, one of them stand-free kerosene heaters that you can buy at Home Depot or something. And I thought that it turned off when I hit the button to turn it off, but it didn't. The wick just went down and it just smoldered. And what happened is that the alarm went off even in the dark because it was nighttime, but somehow I had enough light in there that it was able to detect it. And when I walked in to see why the alarm was going off, all of a sudden, poof, it just exploded. Exploded, that's not the right word. It just combusted right there, and the flames just popped up about 3-4 feet in the air. And but it was just quick enough and had not got hot enough yet because I was standing there that I was able to get it out of the house and throw it away. That son of a gun never came back into the house again. But candles are another way. People sometimes think their candles get put out and they don't at night. I bought a house a few years ago that somebody had a candle that had smoldered and then somehow went down and got into some papers or something. Anyway, I got a good deal on the house, but it had to be totally rebuilt. So that's a bad problem, and you want to make sure, especially if you got children or pets or something. But some of the benefits of the photoelectric cells is it is a very quick to detect. There are all kinds of, before it actually gets bad, has less of our fake or false alarms, which is important because if you have this hooked into, which we'll get into other systems, but if you get it hooked into a, like a surveillance system or an ADT or something like that, one of these kind of burglar alarm kind of companies that give you all kinds of alarms, there's so many of these things. Actually, I'm speaking out of hand here because you should go back and listen to one of our radio shows, and we talk about that different alarm systems there and so they actually work with that, so they kind of an outside source. But that's a great thing. Also, they're better for large spaces, photoelectric smoke alarms, because this how they're designed instead of small little areas. So if you got like a great room down in the basement or something like that, whereas it's they can pick that up. And they have a longer lifespan. I really didn't realize on smoke alarms that we had differences of life expectancies. I know everything has a time and its life, but I didn't know that some of them was only for a year or two. That is why sometimes when you get these alarms, you just don't ever quit beeping. You ever have one like that where it just beeps and beeps and beeps? You change out the battery and it still keeps doing it. Well, then you just know you got a bad one, and you probably got one of the cheaper ones. So that's a bad problem here with that. So you want to make sure that you get that taken care of. Also, Oh, well, what are some of the drawbacks? We've heard some of the good stuff of it. Well, some of the drawbacks of that is that they're slower, that they are slow response to flaming fires because they're more for smoke. Higher cost, that's a problem if you're on limited income. But so that's a question. Higher cost, is that really a problem? I don't know. I think that if your life is dependent upon it, maybe a few extra dollars is really worth your while, don't you think? I mean, I think so. I know for my tenants in my land and the property rental property I own, I make sure I put the better systems in there. Is it because I care about my people? Absolutely. But I also care about my investment. So if you're a landlord or you're doing investing on properties or something, you might think about that. Also, it's a really great to put that into your sales brochure when you're doing selling a house that you got these more upgraded systems in it. Maintenance, like any other kind of smoke alarm, photoelectric alarms require regular maintenance and make sure that they're functioning properly. And that just include like changing the batteries, to conducting monthly tests. And I know that could be time consuming, but it's really worth it. So actually, with the photoelectric smoke alarms, they have the pros and cons, but overall, they're really great and they could definitely save lives. And by you understanding the benefits and limitations, it's going to help you make the best informed decision on which one that you want because they all have their place. So make sure that you get the right one for the right application, and maybe you won't get stuck doing dishes or laundry or cooking or whatever else you made fun of the wife about, and now it's your turn. All right. See, it's just real simple to check these things. And, there's a couple of pictures here about, I know I'm probably going to get in trouble but I mean, anybody can get the right ones put in here and checking and making sure it's being done correctly. Something I do want to talk about before we leave this section of it, and that is making sure that, this is something a little bit out of just smoke alarm, but just fire safety, home safety, and make sure you do have an evacuation plan set up. Talk to the family, go through the system, and make sure you got some ideas of what you want and how you want it done, how you want to get out of the house, where you're going to meet when you get out of the house. You can get all this stuff from the fire districts or anything. And actually, they probably got a lot more on how to take care of it than what we're going to hit onto the show. But it's really worth your time to make sure. So we have dual purposes, fire and smoke detectors. And I want to talk a little bit about that also. Some of the benefits and the drawbacks of the dual purpose. So with the dual purposes, actually what they are is they're smoke and fire. And they kind of work in two different, but both at the same time. And you'll see a lot of these that are put into the house. When we build a new home or we do an addition or we do anything like this, we're always, the codes have been for maybe 20 some years now, 30 years, that we're supposed to have not only battery backup, or that are hardwired or they're electrical wired. And the reason that they have both into electrical wiring and the battery backup is because in case of power goes out and we don't have any electricity in the house, well, now that's even more of a problem because now we're probably burning candles or alternative systems of heating and lighting. And that could cause even more troubles. So that's why they are the battery backup. And you don't have that on your standalone, your just that you go buy in a package with the battery only. So that's really good to know. Then have that wherever you can. So think about that. And the dual sensitive, they use both ionization and photoelectric sensors at the same time. Now, what I discovered was that these dual purpose systems, yes, they have atomization. Remember, we talked about that earlier. But you want to make sure that we put these in areas where traditional smoke detectors would be used, like in the hallways, living rooms, bedrooms. You can put them in the kitchens. That's awesome. And they work continuously. But atomization smoke alarms. Remember, we talked about that earlier, that they had small bell radiation. These do not. At least the ones that I know of do not have that radioactive material. But once again, open it up, take a look at it, make sure if you have that emblem or not in there, and then you'll know whether it's supposed to be, what if it has that in it, because it's the law. If there's radioactive material in it, you're supposed to know. And and then we talk about our evacuation, and that's like I said, you want to make sure it's all taken care of. And some of the drawbacks with this is that you want to make sure there is some drawbacks. There's drawbacks to everything, but these detectors are more expensive even than the traditional smoke alarms. And because they are wired into your home, they may need to have professional installation. Now, actually, it's just a few wires. I think it's simple, but if you're scared of electricity, you really want to get an electrician to take care of it. And then overall, the dual-purpose smoke alarms can provide an enhanced protection. But it gives a lot of peace of mind knowing that you're covered and your family's covered in so many different ways, not just with smoke, but also with the fire. So that's very important to take care of. Make sure that that's done. And I'm going to give you, here's a list of different ones here. The National Fire Association, that's a great place to get information. Consumer Reports has a lot of information on different smoke alarms and things, the brands and things. And this is what the advocacy is going to be doing. We're going to actually be doing more and more testing of different products. At this point, we're just brand new. So, the advocacy is just up and running. We haven't gotten into a lot of that yet, but we will be soon. And it's nothing but great information for you. But the evacuations, I cannot tell you how important that is to make sure that gets done, that you do know. We talk about that with windows. We talk about the egress windows and stuff, getting people out of the house and how, and that's in other radio shows. But I can't emphasize enough. Have a meetup place so everybody knows where they're going to be meeting at the end if there is such a thing happening in their house. Now, here's one that I think a lot of folks really are not familiar with, and just heat detector, just heat. Now, heat detectors actually, so they're kind of put into places like you put them in your garage or you put them up in your attic, maybe even in the kitchen, so something like that. But they don't turn on unless the heat gets up about 135 degrees or so. And then then they activate. So sometimes, say if you have sometimes fires, they just explode, and they just poof, like a chimney fire or something like that. See, the chimney fire, it's going up the chimney, so your smoke's going up there, and the fire is contained inside your box. But if it actually has that fire that's happening inside of the chimney chase, by the time it pops, your house is it's getting hot really, really fast, and that's why the 135 degrees. 135 degrees, well, if you live in Phoenix or one of them places, you're probably giggling at me right now thinking, well, heck, a heat alarm would go off all the time in my house. Well, actually, you're probably right. But just check about that. Make sure that system is something that's compliant for your environment. But for the most of us out here, they work fabulous. And they sometimes have sometimes they have a little false alarms. But if you have a false alarm with one of these, you might want to replace your alarm system. So that's very important. Well, that pretty much talks about our fire and smoke alarms. Carbon monoxide detector. These are something that is code for when you have in your home. And it's a code throughout the United States of America. But carbon monoxide, let's talk about what it is, and then you're going to understand when and it's applicable and not. But what is carbon monoxide? It's a gas that's produced when fuels burn incompletely. You don't get a good burn. And it's colorless. It is odorless. It is tasteless. And it is absolutely almost impossible to detect when it's happening until it gets too late. And it accumulates in enclosed areas, and it leads to poisoning. And one of the first things you're going to notice is you're getting headaches and dizziness and nauseous and even death. It can definitely kill you. So these are things that we definitely want to make sure you know more about that. So I'm going to just take a little bit of time on this, on carbon monoxide detectors. Now, let's go back here real quick before I move on with this. So carbon monoxide detectors. So it is because it's unburnt fuels, right? Well, then that means that if you have all electric home, you might have a fire, but you're not going to get carbon monoxide. So because you are not burning any fuel. I have literally seen home inspectors, and some of the people are probably going to listen to this, and real estate agents and others are going to probably start laughing because they probably know about it. And some of my past customers over the years know about it. They literally, because it is a code, and home inspectors as a whole, they only know what they're taught. They really have no construction experience or very little. So if it's a code issue, they'll automatically call it, even if it's all electric home. Well, next thing you know, the buyer's having a tantrum thinking, oh man, you were trying to kill me. You don't have this, you don't have the right alarms. You do not need a carbon monoxide detector if the home is all electric because there's no unburnt fuels. There's actually no fuels. We'll talk about that in other shows. And actually, some of our other past shows, we've already talked about that. But how do carbon monoxide detectors even work? Well, they use electrical chemical sensoring technology, or sometimes they use a metal oxide semiconductor sensors. But that's kind of how they work, and we could actually drill deeper into it, and we will drill deeper into it on other shows. But for this show, we're just going to go here and move on. But what it is that it detects the concentration of carbon monoxide, literally picks up this odorless gas in the air, and it triggers a loud alarm when it reaches dangerous levels. And the alarm is designed to let you know to first get out of the house. Leave the doors open when you walk out of the house. Start airing it out. I have been into homes when where we've had this problem, and what I always do is I call the fire department. Now, whether you got a fire department close or not, I don't know. But if you do, call fire department. They'll take care of it so you don't have any kind of safety issues. They have all the right proper gear and everything for handling that. Where should you put your carbon monoxide detectors? Where should they be installed? Now, this is a big one. Now, take a moment here and listen, because we sell all kinds of different systems. We're going to talk about the different carbon monoxide systems, detectors out there. And you could place them anywhere. And I have not seen a code. Maybe there are out there, but I have not witnessed a code yet that tells you where the proper placement is. So this is a great public service here. Carbon monoxide should be installed in every room that has, I'm just going to read this here, every room that has an appliance that produces carbon monoxide. Remember, we talked about anything that burns. And it includes your boilers, ovens, furnaces, fireplaces, wood-burning furnaces, anything like that. And you should have one by every bedroom as much as you can. Now, we do have the combinations. We'll talk about that too a little bit, that you have all of it. Should be, make sure you put your detectors at least 15 feet from every gas appliances, such as gas stoves. Also, we'll talk about that a little bit further here. But how often should your carbon monoxide detectors be tested? Well, they recommend they should be tested weekly to make, especially during the summertime or wintertime. I'm sorry, when we're going to be burning more of this, but I recommend you do it all year. If you got a gas stove or a hot water heater, you want to make sure that so I know it's time consuming, but folks, if you don't, and you are permanently damaged or you die, you're kind of like out of time. So you just take your time and look at it and to check it. Now, most of them got a test button. And all you do is just go down and hit the button. It only takes a little bit of time, but I know you got to think about it. It's kind of like the furnace filter. We don't think about it until there's a problem. And replace the batteries twice a year. Now, I will tell you what I was told by the local fire district in my area. So when we was getting one of our rental homes up and we had to get a carbon monoxide tester, he was telling me about a lot of them are not, they're not just really designed to last very long, surprisingly enough. And he was saying that, and I'm not going to get into brands because that's another show another day. But he was saying how they actually they have a very short life expectancy. And even though you hit the button to turn it on, to operate it, to make it work, and it buzzes, that doesn't mean that it's actually working. So I highly recommend that you replace these regularly. What does regularly mean? Well, you can at least every 2 or 3 years, I think you should replace it. Personally, I think that you should replace them every year. myself, and they're simple enough to install but they do cost a little bit of money. But there again, how much is that? To make sure that you're safe. So that's great that's good information. And also, we'll talk about that here. So we want to be in a little bit here. But what are the benefits of using a carbon monoxide detector? Well, saving lives, right? And they're simple to install. We'll talk about that a little bit. And they just it wouldn't be a code for safety issues if it wasn't that important. So just think about that. Well, so we're going to talk about some of the types, usage, some of the benefits, and some more of the drawbacks of it. But see, this is a great picture here, and it talks about where we should actually be putting our carbon monoxide detectors at. I didn't even think about gas-fired dryers, clothes dryers, but we have gas-fired clothes dryers. I don't see a lot of them, but don't take but one to kill you. So that's something to think about. You got to make sure that you get, and these are great. This is great information on knowing where you might want to be thinking that you want to put it at. So, and some of the different types of carbon monoxide detectors. We got the plug-in. Now, this is quite common, the plug-in. Now, I think the carbon monoxide detector should be up high. You put it up about where my recommendation is that you put it where the shortest person of the house breathes his air. So if you've got a child, the child's a toddler. He's only 3 or 4 feet tall, or you got pets, you want to make sure you keep it at that level right there. If you're all adults and everything, and then you make sure you can put it up a little bit taller. But you want to where you're breathing. See, carbon monoxide actually comes it's a light gas, and it floats up, and it causes it can, if inhaled in high concentrations, it can be very deadly. But if you are at if you know about where your breathing zone is, and this is what I not only recommend it, but this is what I read that you need to do. We got the plug-in one, and we got we got a battery-operated one. The battery-operated ones are the ones I like because I think they sit up a lot taller in the air, but also they can be on your ceiling, on your walls, and they can, if you can buy or you're installing, or if you have the opportunity, your house has been wired already for smoke alarms. Remember, we on the other part of our presentation here on our show, we talked about that being pre-wired or hardwired into the house. Battery backup. That actually, if you can get a combination of one smoke alarm system for the whole thing, carbon monoxide detector, heat detector, if you could get it all like that, that's really your best bet. But not everybody has that opportunity. A lot of our older homes are not wired for that, so that's why we have the plug-in. Some of the drawbacks to the carbon monoxide detector. Let's get into that a little bit too here, because see, here's a good picture. Here's a good picture of carbon monoxide, of a battery-operated one. You all see in it. It's actually even is written on it that it's carbon monoxide detector. So you know what it is. So when your building inspector comes through and he's looking, he should be looking, but for that. But honestly, folks, and I do home inspections still, or at least my company does. And sometimes it's kind of older. The detector's older. It's kind of hard to see what it is. So it's better to have two than think you have one and you don't have it. So we want to make sure that you're getting the correct one for the right spot. So what are some of the maintenance issues that I have to take care of? Well, some of the maintenance issues are because everything's got maintenance and everything needs to be taken care of, at least on some sort of a time value. And and every year during our change of the daylight savings time to standard time, with the fire departments and everybody makes a big push for having our smoke alarms. Well, I think you also be thinking about your carbon monoxide detectors, but you want to, like I said, we already talked about checking it regularly. Make sure that you replace the batteries. Simple enough, and at least change the batteries once a year. And try to get good batteries, not try to go if you get the cheaper batteries, because that's all you can afford, like at the Dollar General or something, that's fine. it's better than just change it out twice, because them batteries might not have the same might have a short shelf life, and who knows how long they've been sitting there, and your life is just not worth over a few pennies for a battery. Also, what I found was interesting, make sure you clean the dust off your alarms. Dust and debris can build up in your sensors and can also cause troubles. Now, I kind of wondered whenever the fire department told me the life expectancy of some of these, if that wasn't part of the problem. But if you live in a dusty area, make sure you keep this clean and wiped down, and just follow the manufacturer's recommendation. If you threw away the box or the wrapper, just make sure that you just take a picture of it. You can Google it or DuckDuckGo or whatever when search engines are called, and you can go check it out. But it is important to understand your equipment. Some of the drawbacks are they can't have, like we talked about earlier, is that they have a limited lifespan. Now, this is what my paperwork said, 5 to 7 years. Well, so I'm just telling you what I have read, but I'm telling you also my experience. So my experience says I have a couple, 2 or 3 years, but they say 5 to 7 years. I don't know. You be the judge of where you're at with that. But that's very important to make sure that you get it taken care of. And, just that's about really all we really have on carbon monoxide detectors, other than I cannot tell you how important that they are. This is what happens when we're like if we have a problem inside our garage, and this is why our garages are more fireproofed, so this smoke and stuff and this gas and stuff can't get inside of there. That's why you don't leave your car engines run with the garage door shut. But anyway, remember this, make sure safety first. Make sure you have one in your home. Make sure you have them everywhere you can. Like we talked about, every place, what I said earlier, every 10 to 15 feet away from any combustible appliances. And we talked about that with we just show you right here, one more time because I think it's just that important. And all these type of areas right here. Yeah, these are absolutely a place that needs to be tended to. All right, so water leak detectors. I never really thought much about a water leak detector in my time. I never heard of anybody ever having such a problem. But in new technology and ways that people are living, things have changed. And let me just give you a couple of stories. One story is that I knew a fella actually a young couple, and they left their garden hose on, right, during the wintertime to the faucet. They just forgot. Who hasn't forgotten to take the water hose off the faucet, to spigot outside? Well, they're frost-free. A lot of these are frost-free, and they don't have no leaks or nothing on them at the time. But when you turn your faucet on come spring, and that water will literally flood your basement. That's what happened to them. And their basement flooded. They didn't even know that their basement was filling up full of water. They had no idea because they had left that garden hose on it. That was one of the problems. So if they was out of town or something, they would have been disastrous. But here is a disastrous story. I got a whole bunch of YouTube videos on this particular job. And I'm not going to say who it is, but Jason knows who it is because it was his house. And his contractor, Matt, which I won't visit his last name, he's the guilty party. So what he did, he was working on this young man's house, and it was wintertime. And he took off some siding off around the bay. And this was in the lower unit down in the basement area. It is a walkout basement. And what happened is that he had uncovered some of the bay, and he just stuck some insulation in it. Perfect. That's great. That sounds good. But when he stuck the insulation in it, we had a big storm come through, and it just literally sucked that insulation right out of that the cavities that he stuck. Now, I got this cold front from the storm coming through, and literally it froze his water pipes up. Now, with this some of our new water leak technologies, detectors, he had his set up on his computer or his alarm system, and it alerted him. He was literally out of the state. I don't know. He might have even been out of the country. I mean, that's how cool these things are. And it went off. Now, it flooded his basement. it flooded his basement so bad that I literally got pictures of the water coming out the windows, that bad, because it wasn't that he didn't get the alarm quick enough, because he did get the alarm quick enough, but he was trying to get somebody over there to take care of it immediately. So nobody ever thought about that being a problem where we had to be more proactive or jump right onto it. But but what would have happened if it would have continued to fill up? Well, I don't want to think about that, but your basement down there luckily has a walkout, so it flooded out the windows and the doors. But if you don't have a walkout, that there basement you have could literally be a big well and just fill up full of water and destroy everything you have inside your house. Oh, these people here, they look like they're having a good time, aren't they? But this one here is from a water leak detector. Now, that's another one here. This is just the picture, but a lot of times what we have is we'll have a two-story house, and in the bathroom up above, we might get some cold air or something. And we see this a lot because when we're building brand new custom homes or a new design, we're trying to flush out some of the problem areas that might not got caught during the design process. I've witnessed this myself, and where then it freezes. Well, then it's just a little spring leak. Well, your water detector is picking this up where it's just a little bit of a leak. But if you don't have that detector, next thing you know, that little leak is a big leak, and this is what you got right here, right? And this is a mess. And this, that you have. So make sure that those are great reasons why you should have it. Now, these are just personal experiences from personal stories that I've witnessed. But in simple terms, let's go on down here to hit another picture here for you folks. So we got different types of light detectors here. I didn't get that one there, but make it just simple. We want to make sure that these detectors are installed. And like I said, I never thought of the importance of it until I've actually had the witness of the disaster of what happened. Now, if you're one of these water restoration companies, I think this is money in the bank, but who wants that? So today we got different types of leak detectors. And that's kind of where we're at right here. Is that they're not really any, you got your one that's like I talked about, on your computer or your technical system here. So if it's an alarm system, it can let you know. Or if your detector is hooked right to your computer or to your phone, you can get a phone alert. That's how that young man who was out of the country or out of the city, out of state, that's how he got it. He got it right there on his phone. Or on big industrial complexes as such, which they have a water leak. That's even worse. There's other types of systems that you could do, but you can use. But, why use the leak detector? Well, we kind of went into some of that already, but why we want to do it. But some of the different detectors that we have out there, we have a passive detectors, and they're simply devices that are battery powered. So they're real economical. So there really isn't any reason, but they might not necessarily tell you that your home is leaking except while you're in the house. Like if you're there and it's freezing up above there in the second floor, instead of waiting until you got a problem. Active detectors, and they're actually using a combination of sensors and automatic shut-off valves, literally to shut it off, to detect the leaks, and then shut off the main water line. So it just shuts the whole water off through the whole house. Now, if you have that system, that's a little bit more expensive, but wow. If you're traveling, you're out of state, you got, or you move, you never know. I got one other story about a leak detector. So we had a brand new home we was building. This is one of my homes that we was building. Because as most of you folks that know us, we know we're a building company, and so every Friday, your labor is to go through and turn off every water supply in every building or every home that you're building. And so my labor, he just forgot. God bless him. He was a great guy, done a great job. He was just busy. It's Friday night. Apparently, he was running late. And he thought it was all fine because literally the plumbers, when they put brand new, what they do is before they'll put pressure test before they actually turn everything on. They put air onto it and they pressure test the system. So he thought it was fine. It'd been pressure tested, brand new home, and all of us thought it was fine. I came back on Monday morning and I went into this house and it was soaking wet all weekend long. That water had been running all weekend long. Since then, every house that I build, we automatically put these detectors into it because this cost us a tremendous amount of money. Our hardwood floor was totally destroyed. The subfloor was destroyed. Moisture content through the house. And when you're doing these homes for people, they have a drop dead date or a date that they're supposed to be moving in, a closing date. And that really rocked us trying to get this house back up online and get it ready to close. So that's a great reason. I mean, brand new construction. So, I mean, that happens. And then you also have your flow-based detectors. And these are actually detect the measure of the water flow that's going through your pipes at any particular time. And if there's an unexpected increase in the flow or vice versa, it literally tells you that you have a potential leak that you want to be looking at. And make sure you do this, put it in early, make sure you take care of it. It's going to really, folks, this could save you some great heartache. And it's something that honestly, I don't think a lot of us even think about. But when I built that house and I was telling you about that brand new, at that time, we didn't have these detectors to the quality that we have today and the lower price that we have today. We have a price today that there's really no reason, at least you can't get a simple system installed. But if you don't have the most expensive system or one of the higher quality systems, here's a great tip. A great tip to use. Go to your water supply, your main water line. And if you're going to be on vacation, just turn it off. Just turn it off. And that means just turn the valve, your gate valve, and just turn the water supply off so you don't have that water going through. At least then you know that while you're on vacation or something, you don't have a problem with it. But just like my laborer forgot, you might forget to do it. So you might think about the detector. Great idea. And it'll, give you a peace of mind, protect your belongings. Heck, a lot of us with basements, we store our stuff there, or we have attics. We have stuff up in our attics where we have an attic leak or something up in there. That'll pick it up. You think that water leaks are this and not. Now, I want to conclude with this. We don't want to confuse a water detector leak for something that is a leak from a roof leak or something like that. They're not going to pick up your roof leaks. It's a water pressure. It's your water lines in your home leaks, not for a poor roofing job or maybe a storm blew off some shingles or something. No, let's make sure we get that. I want to make sure that I fully explain that because it is that important. And I think a lot of us have heard about this, but maybe I think some of the things are confusing. Radon gas and alarms. Now, I did a show. Actually, I did this show with my producer here at a radio station we was working at, several years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, about the house. You can get it out there. You can Sherry Suma. She is really, really sharp. So she had a great radio show. I think that you'll get even more information than what I'm going to give you here because she talks about the gas period. I'm only going to briefly talk about the alarm systems and what to be looking for with that. But radon gas, it's not necessarily it's not a new thing at all, radiation and gas coming up from the ground, but it's something more that we're learning more and more about with it. So radiation, basically what it is it comes up out of the ground and into the house. And what's the problem with that is we all know what radiation does, radioactive material. It's a common phenomena that happens throughout the country and throughout the North American continent, probably throughout the world. I only know my world. So I'm not going to speak for everybody, but it's a earthly made product also, besides man-made product, like we talked about with our smoke alarms earlier. Now, radiation. I don't sell radiation systems. I've installed them. I recommend them, but I don't necessarily, push it. Radiation. So when you get a radon test, and what happens is that if it's been dry for a long time, my radiation levels will be lower than what it would be as if it rains for a lot. So during the springtime, when we get heavier rains, your radiation levels will be higher than normal than if it's been during a drought of the heat of the summer. So that's why detectors are necessary, because just because you get it tested for radon during the time of your buying of the home doesn't mean that it doesn't change. And even though it may not have any or very everywhere's got a little radiation coming up, but even though you might not get a lot even during the rainy season, it changes. So in different parts, so maybe in this part of town we're getting more now, but then later it might not have as much, and vice versa. Now, where we're doing this videoing that we're doing our show out of today is St. Louis, Missouri. Now, St. Louis is in the state of Missouri, naturally, which is the cave state. We have a lot of caves up and through here. That's why we have these great breweries that we used to have, and we still got one last brewery here because of the cooling. And so that's why they migrated here. But that's another show, another time. A lot more fun to talk about than radiation. But nevertheless, them caves are a very bad spot. And then where we have the most caves, what I'm picking up and what I'm seeing is where I have the most cave activity is where I'm getting the highest levels of radiation than other areas of our area, community, of our region. So it's just but you might not know you got a cave up underneath your house. You just might. You probably very well don't know. So it's good to have these systems put into place. So that's some of the ideas and thinking of it. Well, radiation. Let's finish a little bit with this here. So radiation helps because we all know that people get radiation treatment for cancer, but also you get radiation from your cell phone. If you got a low battery on your cell phone, I've been told, I've never done a lot of research on it. I try to keep my batteries charged, but if you got a low battery, your phone puts out more radiation. Your color TV does. I remember when color TVs first came out, shows how old I am, that they used to say you had to stand back of your TV set, a few feet. And I forgot how many feet that you had to, so you wouldn't get the radiation off the color TV. Now our TVs are so big that I don't think you have to get too close to them like you used to, but when we had them little color TVs, that was a problem. Radiation ovens, well, nobody wanted to buy a radiation oven, so we just changed the name to microwave oven. And people buy them, and we all love them, but they definitely are, they're radiation ovens. That's another show for another day, and we will talk more about that. And I really do want to get into that, but not today. But so you're putting radiation to your food. So you are, don't be just automatically run and get scared and think radiation is all horrible. But that's why we want the alarm system, so as that we can have an opportunity to know when we're starting to reach dangerous levels. Make sure that we're not having any kind of problems. We don't want to wait till the very end. No. Here we go here. So understanding the gas and how radon gas, this is a great chart. I kind of borrowed this from somebody else. So, but how radiation actually enters the house. And so it comes up out of the ground, and this is some of the areas I want to share with you. It's coming up through the subfloor. It's coming up through so if you got your water lines are coming into your house, you got different water lines protruding, it's under the ground, and that's another areas it's seeping into. Sump pumps, sump pits, I should say. Sump pumps sit in the pit. That's right in here. That's another place that that radiation's coming up out of. You got your soil lines, your sewer pipes, your stack pipes exiting the house. That's another place. And then, of course, natural occurrences just coming up and out of the ground. And fractured rock or bedrock. So it's coming up everywhere. Then this is a great picture. That's why I use this picture, because I loved how it talked about. And you literally are getting it coming. So what it does is entering up, and it's going into your register vents, into your furnaces. Your furnace then sends out and displaces it off through the house. When you turn your furnace on, coming into your water. So when you turn your water on, it's sucking it right in through there, through your faucets. So it is something that's very much to be paying attention to. I tried to not put the fear into you at the beginning, and now I'm going to say a little bit more about that, because it is that important. And like I said, if you would like to learn more about it, contact us and or hit reply, ask a question either through our website or through when you read it, watching this, when you hit like and subscribe, hit reply. and then ask whatever questions. And hey, if you've had experiences with anybody that's ever been harmed with radiation, please share your experiences in the comments section below section 2, because it is that important that we are fully understanding what it is. Now, what is radon gas? Well, it's kind of like carbon monoxide. So isn't that amazing? All this stuff we don't even know floating around and it's right there living with us. But it's colorless, it's odorless, it's tasteless. And actually, what they say that it's a breakdown of uranium in our soil, in our rock, and in our water. And when the radon's released into the ground, it comes up into the outdoor air. It just gets diluted, and that's why it don't hurt us when we're outside, because we have all the other fresh air. And this is one of the main when we're doing a home and building inspection. We're not so much in commercial buildings. Sometimes we do, depending on if it's apartments or if it's motels or something. But if you're not enclosed in it all the time. But one of the number one things we have is we got sewer lateral inspections, but we also do radon inspections. And so they do cost a little extra, but as long as you're aware that you do need to get the test, you do need to know where you're sitting, whether you got to get a system or not for cleaning it, remediation. And you just now just because I got a low number here doesn't mean that you shouldn't have an alarm system for it, because maybe you caught it at a time of the year that you're not having the same amount of problem. But as like Sherry was talking about, we're having over 21,000, maybe more than that now, 21,000 deaths from lung cancer every year from radiation. Now, you do your own research and document these numbers, because I didn't go deeper into it, and we'll do that on other shows, because that's what because Construction Consumer Advocacy is about, for education. But it's to fully understand where it's coming from, how it's coming through. We talked about how it comes in through the cracks and crevices of the basement, and it is coming up out of the ground. And there's several different systems out there for checking it. But you've got to make sure for long-term health protection that you do take care of this. And all of these alarms that we've talk about that. Well, let's talk about here. This is some of the two different types. Now, this is not an alarm system. This is just the radon systems. You might have one of these in your house. And this is a active system. And see what this is right here. This is actually a blower motor. And we'll start over here. Let's move over to the right. So this is a passive system, because actually the active system is a combination. So they put this is how we used to build. This is how we used to do them for years before we actually had this this active system. And you just take a PVC pipe, you stick it down into the ground, and to a little suction pit. And what you're doing is you put it down below your foundation. I like to see it below the footing. You put it right through the basement floor, go down below your footing, which is approximately a foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, depending on what part of the country you're in. And just then what happens is the radiation will come in. But what's drawing that is it's the chimney effect. And so it just because it's being drawn up, it's kind of like the straw kind of a thing. And okay, so that's exactly how it works in a passive system. Passive systems are fabulous because there's nothing that could ever break down in them. But if you have super high radiation levels in your home, then I highly recommend you get the active system. And like I said, what this is, now forget this here, this is a 90% high efficiency furnace. That's their new chimney pipes. That has nothing to do with this. It just happens to be in the picture. But anyway, so I have this, and it's a little electric motor. And it's plugged right in here to a waterproof box. And you could hear it humming out there. And if you don't hear it humming, you go outside, you could put your hand on it, you could feel it, or you could just watch it or hear it physically. But that are the two different systems that we use. And both of them are efficient. We used them both for years, but now let's talk about the different types of alarms, right? With the different types of alarms, we have the types that's hooked into the computer again, that you also can get you can also have it connected to your phone. What if you're out of town again and you maybe, or you got, or maybe whatever's happening and you are not, something's happening in your home and you get these higher levels, or it just gives you an alert. I think they're just fabulous, but not all of everything is like that. Then you got the wall mount systems. And the wall mount system can be also hooked into your phone, or you can just have it so as that you just walk by and you just periodically, look at it and see what the levels are. Then we have the passive system. And what I got over here, this is the passive system right here that we're talking about. But this is kind of the breakdown of what it actually means and what's inside of it and going on. Now, this fancy stuff, that's only for the construction nerds out there, but the passive systems work fabulous too. And I highly recommend that any of these systems you should put something like this in your house. Folks, the tighter we make our houses, the more we have these kind of indoor air quality problems. And we're going to do a whole show on that, on indoor air quality. And we're going to try to do that later into the year. So it'll be about indoor air quality, because the more expensive our fuel gets, the less we want to spend on our energy. But the tighter it is, the more health hazards we have for indoor air quality. So that is why it's important that we take care of our radon. That's why we take care of our carbon monoxide. We make sure we don't have any smoke alarms or smoke issues or anything like this. And there's a whole lot more different ones than that. And actually on some of our radio shows here about the house, you can go back and check into that and listen to our shows on that too, where we've had experts come in and talk about it. But that definitely is something that you do need to learn more about, especially if you have children or pets. I'm kind of past the child, as you could look at my old white beard and such, and I'm kind of past the children's stage, but I still got my little babies. I got my girls, my doggies, and they're down on the ground low, and it would just break my heart to ever have anything happen to them. It would really break my heart if something happened to my animals or my family. If it was because I didn't want to spend an extra $20, $30, or I didn't take the extra time to go check the batteries, or I didn't take the extra time to even listen to this radio show and learn more about it. It'd be devastating. And I hope that you folks do take the time to learn more about that. So, and that pretty much concludes on our alarm systems. But anyway, that's kind of the end of the show. I put this in here because I thought this was cute, but just kidding. This is really never truly the end of protecting ourselves. And this is a great little saying here. And just making sure knowledge is key, and not just for radon, but for all indoor air quality problems. And we want to live as healthy as possible, and we want to give our families the best opportunity we can. And we don't want them to ever be damaged. And with today's houses, like I said, we're doing such a fabulous job of making them airtight. We're actually creating more issues, but we're only creating them if we don't understand what we're doing. So anyway, folks, thank you for watching our show. God bless you. Thank you. Hit like and subscribe, and I've already offered, because it is my birthday. We're celebrating. I'm 29. How many times now? Oh my, too many times. But because of this, I want you to be able to get the top 10 questions if you request this for finding out about what to hire when you're hiring a contractor. And also, we're giving a big discount on our book, The Essential Contractor Hiring Guide. Both of these, hey, like on the book here, I'm just a quick pitch, but on the book, honestly, folks, for a few dollars, you could possibly and probably save thousands of dollars when you're working with a contractor. And how many horror stories you got to hear first? So for a few dollars, learning is the key to success. Thanks, folks, and God bless you all.